Hi, this is Kris Combs from Iris Divine, and you're listening to Dave Softee's Metal Meltdown on Metal Messiah Radio. Crank it up!
Till there's nothing left to say. Alrighty, Metal Maniacs, here we go. Please help me welcome to Metal Messiah Radio from progressive metal band Iris Divine, hailing from Centerville, Virginia, living in Peyton, Colorado. Joining us tonight, we have Kris Combs, who's the drummer, the keyboards, and the programming of the band. Welcome, Kris.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Going great here, and I want to thank you for taking the time to be here on the Metal Meltdown. I just want to make sure everything is good with you.
I appreciate it. Thank you for taking your time.
Oh, my pleasure. You know, it's been a while since I featured a prog metal band for an interview, so I'm looking forward to this.
Cool, glad to help.
The first thing I want to do is congratulate you on your brand new release, The Static and the Noise, out on Sensory Records.
Thank you very much. It's actually not on Sensory. It's actually a self-release. Chromosome was released on Sensory Records. This was actually a self-release.
This is self-released? Well, congratulations on that. All right. Well,
thank you.
That's interesting, and we'll have to discuss about that process as well. And tonight we want to learn as much as we can about this new release and how much the band has evolved since its beginnings in 2008. And by the way, who is Iris, and who named the band?
Okay, so Iris is not an actual person. Iris is just a word that everybody in the room liked when they were going through band name ideas, and they wanted some other word to go with it. And the reason I say they is because I wasn't in the band when it originally started in 2008. I didn't join in 2012. So the story goes, they all four of them liked the word Iris, and they just wanted something else to go with it. So I think decay was a word for a while that they threw around, and then eventually they landed on Divine, so there you go.
I appreciate you explaining that, and I knew Iris wasn't a name. It's like Pink Floyd. Which one is Pink? It was one of those things, you know?
Right.
I had to add that.
Absolutely.
And this is the band's third official full release, with the previous releases in 2011, Convergence, and in 2014, Karma Sown. So you were on the previous release, but not the first release, I imagine.
Right. So yeah, Convergence was, I guess, technically a double EP. I don't know if the band would acknowledge that as a full-length album. It was basically two EPs that they had done separately and then combined it into one full-length. And then Karmasone, we released on our own in December 2014, and just after we released it, and I mean just after like 72 hours, we got picked up by Sensory, so we had to pull it. And then they released it on their label in March of 2015. So you could say 2014 or 2015 for the release date of that one. But yeah, I was on Karmasone, and of course I'm on the new album.
Right. And how much has the band changed over the years? I think originally it was a 4-piece. Now it's a 3-piece, right?
Yeah, correct. So yeah, the band started out as a 4-piece. It was a kind of a dual lead vocal, a dual lead guitar, rhythm guitar situation. And then one of the other guys that also shared the keyboard and vocal, or he shared the vocal duty and co-guitar duty. He also handled all the keyboard and programming kind of work. So they were a 4-piece from 2008 to early 2012. At that time, the original drummer and the guy doing the keyboards and co-vocals and co-guitar left. So both of those guys left. And about 6 months later, I joined, and we looked for another guitar player for a while so we could continue the dual vocal kind of situation. And auditions are tough regardless of what band you're in. And as we were going through it and trying to figure out who we wanted to get, we realized we were really enjoying just writing as a 3-piece. So at that point, it just became the logistics of how to still capture the essence of what Iris Divine was, but take it further. And I've always been interested in keyboards and programming. I've played piano off and on forever. I love soundscaping, so I just threw my head up and said, I'll take over that. If Brian, our bassist, could handle backing vocals in a live setting, and off we went. And that's where Karmasone came from.
Very, very interesting. Now, please mention, you just started to mention the rest of the current lineup of Iris Divine.
Sure, yes. So our singer/guitarist is Naveed Rashid. Our bassist is Brian Dobbs, and then, of course, I'm the drummer /keyboardist/programmer.
Yes, thank you very much for that. And let's learn the process of how the writing and music and lyrics went down for this new offering. I'm always interested in how the music and the words all came together to bring out this new music.
Sure. So with a band like ours, we have so many different ways we can come up with songs, but Naveed is pretty much the brains behind how everything happens, regardless of logistically how it actually comes together. He's the one that's writing the majority of the riffs. He comes up with basically the blueprint of the songs. We'll take them from there and go to the rehearsal space and work through a lot of the intertwined sections where we're playing off of each other and a lot of the time change kind of stuff. We'll really hone that in the rehearsal space just as the three of us. And maybe at that time Naveed might have a couple melodic ideas where he just kind of goes through it and try to figure it out. But it's really once he goes home and starts making a proper demo that he'll throw down just kind of a mumbling version of the melody, and we'll build the song off of that. And then probably the last thing that comes into play is the keyboards, because that's not something I write in the rehearsal room. I have my own studio at my house, and I'll work on stuff and I'll send it to Naveed for feedback, and we'll bounce back and forth. And a lot of times the majority of the drums are written by MIDI programming. So he'll demo out an entire song with some kind of basic drum pattern ideas that he has. I'll take them and embellish them and work them up, or I'll even just play them live on an electronic drum kit, because I don't actually have a live kit at my house. And we'll demo out that way. As far as lyrics, he writes the majority of the lyrics. He wrote all of the lyrics on Karmasone. He wrote 7 of the 8 on the new album, and I wrote the lyrics for the album Closer. So that's pretty much it, unless you had any other specific questions about it. But that's like kind of the overall.
No, I appreciate that. We appreciate that information. And another piece of information I'd love to know is, being that the band is based in Virginia and you're in Colorado, what was the recording process like? Was it like done mostly over the internet, or did you all meet somewhere at a specific place? Where was this effort actually mixed, produced, recorded, and all that good information for the static and the noise? I'd love to know how this all came to be. And just to back up a little bit, being that you had mentioned that you self-released Karmasone, then were signed to Sensory, what led you to leave Sensory, and what led you to release the static and noise recording, to not have the sign? And then we'll talk about if you have potential leads for being signed, or you prefer not to be signed at this point.
Okay, so to answer the first question about the recording logistics, the easy answer is just 2 words: frequent flyer. Yeah. I've traveled, I think I counted 21 times in the last 3 years. I love to fly. It shows. So for me, I go to I go to the East Coast. I just got back from the West Coast. I go to the East Coast multiple times throughout the year, and the majority of it is for band stuff. So it's either playing shows, and around shows we will book many rehearsals to where we can not only practice the songs for the shows, but also to dive into new ideas and keep writing. I also go in for the video shoots and things like that we do. So for me, from a recording standpoint, I did exactly what we did on Karmasone. I lived in Virginia when we recorded Karmasone. I recorded my drums with Drew Mazurek, who lives in Maryland, so we went up to his house for a weekend. I did the same exact thing for this album. I flew into Virginia, and we went up to his house for a weekend, and I knocked out the drums in 2.5 days.
Wow.
And so from there, it goes into how the guitars and bass work, and then vocals. So our old guitar player, he records a lot of our stuff for us. So he recorded the vocals for both albums, some of the leads. Brian, our bassist, recorded all the bass parts at his house for this album. I do all the keyboard work at my own place. And then Drew, for this album, Drew Mazurek, he both mixed and mastered this album. Last time he just mixed it and we had somebody else master it, but this time we stuck with him for both the mixing and mastering.
Very cool. So you really don't need a label. You can do everything yourself.
These days, honestly, the label represents something completely different than what it did in the 80s and even early 90s, where they would throw you a bunch of money and you go in the studio and you could live in a studio for 6 months or a year on their dime, but then you eventually had to pay back from your record sales. Well, now record sales don't really exist.
Exactly.
With streaming models and that kind of stuff. So the record label these days is more so a distribution and PR model.
Yeah.
They're able to get our CDs in stores all over the country, all over the world, and you have reviews from all over the world and the press exploding, so they can handle all of that for you. And now that we're not on a label, we're doing all of that ourselves.
In your involvement with Century, though, for what they offered you, were you happy with them, or was there really nothing that they could have done to make your experience any better?
I wouldn't say they did anything wrong. I mean, our deal with them was for one album, and that ran its course with Karma Stone. And so when it came time for us to look at our options for this album, we talked to Century, we talked to a couple other different labels, and we decided it was just in our best interest at this point to just move on and do it ourselves. We're not against going with a label for a follow-up to this album if everything logistically makes sense.
Right. Thank you for explaining that. And let's talk about the CD artwork. It looks pretty technical and educated and clean. So who is responsible for the artwork for the static and the noise?
So for Karma Stone and this album, I call myself kind of the creative director from an artwork standpoint for the band. So I came up with kind of basic ideas of what I felt the artwork should like or the direction we should go. And once that's agreed upon within the band, I have a friend that lives in London named Fernando Ruiz, who he has a company called Visual Decay. So I sent him all my ideas, and then he, of course, being the amazing artist that he is, he's able to take my initial Microsoft Paint kind of ideas and work them into something grand, and that's what he did on both albums. Both
nice.
albums, both Karma Stone and this one.
Very nice. Visual Decay does sound familiar. Where are they located?
He's moved around a bit. I think he lives in London right now.
Okay, that name sounds familiar. I think we were actually talking about that in the chat room the other day, and they were showing pictures of some of his work, and it sounds very familiar. Thank you for explaining that.
Cool.
Right.
Absolutely.
Now, yeah, of course. Now, does Iris Divine have a tour planned in support of the new release? Or what do you have coming up that we could spread the word on?
Right now, we don't have any concrete tour plans. We are looking to do some stuff, at least a small tour at the top of 2018. For the rest of the year, we have some shows booked, or at least one show that's definitely confirmed. We're playing Club Orpheus in Baltimore on November 11th. And then we have other opportunities that we're looking into that weekend that we have yet to be able to confirm. So once those are confirmed, we'll have those on our Facebook page and our website and that kind of stuff, so everybody can mark the dates, save the dates, and come out.
Perfect time to give your Facebook. That's facebook.com/Iris Divine. And I'm going to also give you Bandcamp, irisdivine.bandcamp.com, because I want to talk about merch. Where would you say would be the best place for a fan of Iris Divine to pick up the CD or digital downloads or whatever merch you may have? And what merch do you actually have available currently for your fans?
Sure. So, yeah, probably the easiest way for the digital download is the Bandcamp site. And then we have our own Big Cartel store, so that's irisdivine.bigcartel.com. We have, of course, the new CD there. We have some shirts from the previous CD from Karma Stone that is the artwork of the album, as well as the CD is a bundle for $30 versus the $35 that you would pay if you bought them individually. And then, of course, our CDs are also available on CD Baby, Amazon Digital Downloads, Spotify, and iTunes.
All the big ones. You got it. Thank you for that info.
All the big ones.
And what about videos? Have you a plan for what tracks you may be considering either a lyric video or an official music video for? Anything laying down that process?
We actually have an official video that we did for Taking Back a Fall. We recorded that back in February and released maybe a month and a half ago.
Oh, yeah?
So that's out on the YouTubes right now, yeah. We recorded that in a warehouse right before it got destroyed in Richmond, Virginia. So it was a really cool photo shoot or a video shoot. And then I think we're going to end up doing a lyric video, but I don't think it's decided on what to do that for. And of course, I would love to do another actual official video. So hopefully we can make this happen in the next few months.
I wish that for you. And Kris, would you like to talk a bit about your gear, your drums, and your keys? Would you like to talk about what you use and if you have any endorsements, anything related to that?
Yeah, so as far as drums, my main kit is a Mapex Pro M Series drum kit. And then I have a couple of percussion toys that I use with that. I have set bonds and that are pearl octodons, and then a pearl fire snare that I use almost as a timbale, but also turn it on and use it kind of as a side snare percussive sound. But as far as cymbals, I do have a drum endorsement or a cymbal endorsement, Soul Tone cymbals. They're an amazing company. They sell their cymbals sound like Fabian, but if you put bacon on top of Fabian, and I love bacon. So they're very crispy, but they're very punchy, but they also get out of the way really, really quickly. So I am absolutely in love with them.
It sounds delicious.
Even if they drop me tomorrow, I would still use them forever. That's exactly what they are. They're delicious. As soon as I hit one of those splashes, I want to eat it, but then I realize it's not food.
Wow. That's very
so,
I never heard anything described
as far as
very cool. Very, very
right?
cool. Yeah.
So as far as hardware, I use DW pedals and Tama cymbal stands, and then Vic for drumsticks. For keyboards, I'm kind of an in-the-box guy. I have a lot of outboard processors. I do have a Yamaha Motif rack processor, but I don't use that much for what we do. So I basically have a giant MIDI controller, and then I love using Native Instruments or Omnisphere. One of my favorite pieces of software is Alchemy. So anything that can kind of dredge up a moody, industrial, ambient texture that I can mix pianos with and have a lot of fun with compression and EQ and delay and just make noise that will get some kind of a reaction out of people, whether it's good or bad or intense. I'm always going for that extra feeling, because at the end of the day, Iris Divine could survive without the keyboards that exist in our song. I'm not a keyboard player. I'm a keyboard enthusiast. I'm a piano enthusiast. I don't know enough about it to call myself a keyboard player. So for me, the role in the band from a keyboard standpoint is to pull mood into the song or give the song a lift and give texture and ambient versus being a typical Jordan Rudess kind of guy throwing piano riffs and motifs everywhere. That's not my thing. So for me, I love all of this. I love all this soundscape kind of software that's out there.
I follow you. Now, my one question is, now you're the drummer, so you can't do drums and the keys at a live show. So when you're doing live shows, do you bring a keyboardist with you, or do you have that programmed?
Well, like I said, because I'm not a keyboard player, if I brought in somebody that knew what they were doing, they would be bored out of their mind playing this stuff, because it's ridiculously elementary. So I would never want to do that to somebody, and I'm also kind of a control freak where I'd want it to sound exactly how I intended it. So for that, we actually do pipe them in via iPod. And I know a lot of people kind of move their nose up at the idea of backing tracks, but we're not piping in guitars or vocals or bass or anything like that. It's all stuff that has been pre-programmed from a keyboard ambience mood kind of perspective. So if the backing tracks died during a show, we could keep playing and be fine. I mean, you'd be missing some stuff, but it's not like a guitar solo is going to be gone or backing vocal harmonies are going to be missing or anything like that.
Right.
That's happened before, and you just keep playing.
Yeah,
so.
It's a very common thing now. Bands that were maybe a 4-piece or a 5-piece and are now a 3-piece, they do pipe in the sound, and it's a very common thing these days. So it is what it is. The show must go on.
Well, there's that, and back in the day, Pink Floyd, they would take 15 people out on tour with them, but at the same time, Pink Floyd was making a lot of money.
Right.
Pink Floyd wasn't doing VIP meet and greets either, and they weren't charging $200 for the nosebleed seats at Madison Square Garden. Now, because times have changed and musicians can't afford the same things that they could, then that's why VIP tickets for $400 exist, because people are not buying music like they used to.
That's a good point.
So it's a trade-off,
Yeah, of course.
if you want to stream your music, then don't get mad at the guy for pipe in piano lines.
It's a very common thing these days. I've talked to many bands, and when they're on stage, that they have keyboards on the recording, but coming to the live performance, there's no keyboard player, so they're piping it in. It's just the way it is. It's the way it goes. It's how it is.
Or they don't have it. Or they don't have it at all. Good friends of ours are Mind Maze, and they have a lot of piano throughout their CD, but live they don't have the piano there at all. They're just guitar, bass, drums, and vocals. And I can respect that. I understand where they're coming from. Just for us, for us, we absolutely need to have it with us.
I totally understand that, and I thank you for explaining that.
Sure.
Kris, is there anything that you would like to say to your fans that are tuning in at this time?
Thank you guys so much for your amazing support. We were able to do 2 very successful Kickstarter campaigns thanks to you guys, and we hope that you love our new album and come see us at our shows. Come by and say hi to us, and yeah, thank you so much.
And I want to congratulate you on your Kickstarter programs. I had no idea about that. That's good news, and it's great that the fans can support you to do what you want to do and what you need to do, and to help you afford to do it. It's always great.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And Kris, I want to thank you for the interview. I appreciate all your time in getting this done. I think we brought lots of info out to the fans. And before we conclude, I just want to make sure we got everything covered that we could get out there to the new and old Iris Divine followers. That being said, is there anything more that we could bring to the table that we could get out to your fans out there?
I don't know. I think we covered everything. At this point, it's really about the music. Please go check out the music. Let us know what you think of the new album. And if you like it, help spread the word. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. Yes, hopefully we'll see you guys out there.
I want to thank you for your words, and I want to thank you again for your time in doing this. And I want to wish you and everyone in Iris Divine a great what's left of 2017 and the future years. And let me know personally, tag me or send me a message when you have more videos that we could help share, or if you have more shows that you want to spread the word on. Keep in touch and let us know what's going on, and I hope to talk with you at some other point for the follow-up to this brand new offering of yours. And so just make the most of what we have with the great static, the static and the noise offering. And if you do get signed, if that's something that should develop, also let us know, because we're all about spreading the word. So I want to thank you so much for this opportunity. I've enjoyed getting to know you, and I appreciate everything you've had to say.
Absolutely. Thank you. I will tag you at a Facebook post, and I will send you the video that we did for Taking Back the Fall, so you can check it out.
I would love to see that, because I have yet to see that now. Let's go crank up some more tunes off of the static and the noise. Let's get progged out right now. Crank it up!